Adam here at Apache Village in Hazelwood, Missouri. We're going to do something a little different for you today. Usually we're doing product knowledge, showing you all the cool, latest, greatest stuff that we have here. Today I'm going to take you guys on a different adventure. I'm going to go through pros and cons of a travel trailer over a fifth wheel. So we're going to have a bunch of stuff. Something we're going to start working on with you guys here in the near future. We're going to do some travel trailers, fifth wheels, fifth wheels of motorhomes, all that good stuff. So, just to help better educate you guys when it comes down to that buying process, and everybody, we love to see videos. So today, like I said, we're going to do some travel trailers. We're going to do a fifth wheel, and let's get right into it. So we'll start with our travel trailer. Pros on travel trailers. One, we're going to go from anywhere from 15 feet all the way up to 35 feet. So we got a much bigger variety of sizes for our travel trailers, because I don't have to have such a big vehicle when it comes to towing it. I can get away with having the family SUV that we already have. Heck, I got some campers here that minivans can tow. So that's one great thing with it, is I don't have to have all that added expense into the cost of a big 3/4 ton truck to tow my fifth wheel. So, but then also it's going to allow us to get in a lot more places. Some of our big fifth wheels, heck, you can see behind me, these guys are huge. And some of these older campgrounds, they get a little bit tighter, so therefore I'm not going to be able to get into them all the time. Where a travel trailer, I can get into them 90% of the time, those mom and pop shop ones that were a little bit tougher to get into. So, but then also the nice thing with travel trailers, and all of it is one level. We're gonna go through, and when you walk up your steps inside your camper, it's one level from the bedroom all the way to the back. And I'll touch a little bit on fifth wheels when we get into that. It is, you go up the steps, and you got to kind of go up the steps more to go into your bathroom and bedrooms on fifth wheels when it comes to like kind of a con on that guy. But then also travel trailers, they're lower profile, so when you're going down the road, we don't have to be as aware of when it comes to overpasses, bridges, and stuff like that. You still have to be very, very well aware of that, because I don't want you to, but we could take a air conditioner off, or low-hanging branches, when we're going through neighborhoods. It's just things that we have to pay attention to that are going on out there. But then a little bit of the cons on a travel trailer is I'm not going to get as much space on the inside as I would on the as a fifth wheel, where my frames on my travel trailers are a lot smaller than my fifth wheels. And when we pan over and do the fifth wheels that are back behind me here, we'll get into that. We'll see that. So, on our frames, on our travel trailers, they're all one I-beam frames that go all the way the whole length of the camper. That's what allows us to have the one level, the whole side inside, or throughout the whole inside. But then they aren't heavy enough to hold 2, 3, 4 slide outs like these big fifth wheels are. We'll get into some travel trailers that are out here that are going to have 3 slide outs, but now you're getting into 35-foot travel trailers, then you're talking getting into that big 3/4 ton truck again. So then at that time, now we start having that conversation. What are you wanting? Would you be opposed to a fifth wheel? A little bit easier to hook up, a little bit easier to maneuver around. Where travel trailers, we get a little bit more, work to hook up, because we got our weight distribution bars, our safety chains, our sway control, stuff of that sort. So fifth wheels can be a little bit easier there. So, when we get into a travel trailer, there's lots and lots of pros, because I can get into this, you're getting travel trailers anywhere from, $14,000, $15,000 up to, $50,000, $60,000. But then fifth wheels, you're starting in, that $30,000, $40,000 range, depending on manufacturers and everything of that sort. But then you can tap over $100,000 in a fifth wheel. So, but yeah, so the nice thing with travel trailers is I can get in small, lighter weight, don't need some big, huge, fancy truck to tow it going down the road. Most of the guys out there have half-ton trucks. Some of the ladies have half-ton trucks, or like I said, your family SUVs. My wife has a Kia Telluride, and I can tow a lot of campers with that Telluride because, you know, it's smaller, but then also we can get in it and hook up to a camper and just tow it right down the road, and we don't need to use a big truck to, you know, tow one of these bigger travel trailers down there. So I'm going to flip this around and go over a few things like I was talking about. So like on your travel trailers, you know, you're going to have smaller compartment doors that are here, so we're not going to have as much space and storage on the outside as we would on a fifth wheel. And like I said, we'll get into that when we get over there to our fifth wheels. But then coming inside, like I said, you're gonna be all one level on the inside of the camper. You know, so when we walk in, we got 3 steps that come inside to here. You're walking in, you're flat all throughout the inside. And then this particular floor plan, it actually has 2 slide outs on it. But then when we start looking at it, you know, it's 38 foot long. So we're starting to get into bigger travel trailers when you want to get that second slide out. But then now, one pro for your travel trailers is when you get into them, with them not being so tall like our big fifth wheels, you know, everything's right in height. And that's the one thing a lot of people will talk about, is that, you know, when my wife's not the tallest, you know, we get into these and, you know, fifth wheels, their cabinets are way up high, their microwaves are up higher above the stoves and everything. It's like, you know, you put something in the microwave and all of a sudden you go to get it out. It's like, man, that's, you know, I don't want to spill that on myself when I'm getting it out. So the pros of the travel trailers, you know, smaller are, well, they are a little bit smaller cabinets, but then also they're a lot lower to the ground. So therefore, whoever's getting the stuff out of, you know, the pantry, the microwave, you know, the refrigerator, freezer, you know, it makes it a lot easier for them to get into it and get that stuff out. But then, like I was saying, you know, with this guy, this particular floor plan is a rear kitchen, so it's got a ton of countertop space, but we lose a lot of that when we go into smaller campers because, you know, I'm trying to conserve as much space and give you as much stuff inside of them. You know, whereas, you know, 26-foot travel trailer with bunk beds, you know, you're not going to get as much countertop space in it, but you're going to get the sleeping quarters, and you're not going to, again, need some big, huge, heavy 3/4 ton truck to go through and tow it going down the road. So, just going to go over a couple little notes. And then, again, budget friendly on my travel trailers. That's the one big thing with them, is they are very budget friendly. You know, to where I can go out and hit my weekend warriors that are going to go out, you know, I'm going to use it, you know, 5-6 times a year, you know, so where it's like, you know, I can justify the cost of that camper rather than, you know, spending $60, $70, $80,000 on a big fifth wheel. And it's like, you know, you feel like you kind of have to be obligated to use that. So, but yeah, so that's a big thing there on our travel trailers. I'm going to walk over and, we'll do some pros and cons on our fifth wheel, and we'll go from there. All right, let's get back into this. And for pros on fifth wheels, ton more storage. 90% of your fifth wheels nowadays have auto leveling on them. So when you go get to where you're going, you disconnect your truck, hit a button, the whole camper auto levels itself. Where on travel trailers, there are a few that are out there, you know, your higher end travel trailers, they're not going to be auto leveling, to where you're going to have to get out, you know, manually crank them down. I don't think I've cranked down a jack in about 25 years. It's taught a trick a long time ago, 3/4 inch socket with a cordless drill. We'll put those jacks down really, really quickly. So thanks to the owner, John Meyer, teaching me that trick a long time ago when I first started here. So, but yeah, so with these fifth wheels, I'll flip it around. You're going to have all auto leveling that's down there on the bottom of these guys. So there's only a few fifth wheels that I have that are in stock that don't have that. But then now, look at this storage. I'll step back, all right? This compartment door is about 2.5 foot tall by about 3.5 foot wide, and it's passed through all the way through to the other side. I mean, that's a huge griddle that's inside there. So you're gonna get a bunch more storage. That's just on the side of this. And then you still have another one that's gonna be up there on the front end. So you're getting a ton more storage. On most of my fifth wheels too, you're gonna get 2 awnings. So you're gonna get an awning on the front here, but then also we order them with awnings that are on the back slide outs back there. So now when you go into this, I have almost the whole length of my camper with an awning. But then when you get into it, we're getting to a lot bigger camper. You know, we're 45 foot long, and then we use a different frame system. So this guy here has a stacked I-beam frame, so therefore it allows me to get a bigger storage compartment up front. But then also, this one actually has 4 slide outs on it. So when we get inside and you see that, you know, it's gonna be a much bigger on the inside. But then cons, all right? Let's talk about some of the cons. I do need that 3/4 inch, preferably diesel truck. You know, your gas trucks nowadays, they're doing a great job of towing these big fifth wheels as well. So you're gonna have a little bit higher cost up front on the fifth wheel, but then you're also gonna have higher up front costs on the vehicle. So that's where kind of the fifth wheels it kind of pushes them away, so to speak, because it is a lot of cost that's right up front that we have to do. But when you get into a fifth wheel, you do get a bunch more space inside. You get a bunch more storage space outside. Your camper is more of a livable camper, and your fifth wheels are going to target those people that are full timing, but then also people that are wintering out Texas, Arizona, Florida for the winter time, because you're getting so much more space on the inside of the camper. But yeah, so that's the con, is, it is a lot more upfront costs. It does, that's one of the big things that's there. But then also, you get into some of these older campgrounds, some of these newer, bigger fifth wheels, they're not allowed to be inside of them because they are so big. Some of the state parks, I haven't heard anybody say that, Adam, you sold me a camper that's too big. This park didn't let me in it. A lot of the state parks, they just don't want to go through and cut their trees because they want to conserve the state park, which I totally understand that, or national park. So, but yeah, so that's the big deal that's there. But then coming inside, I'll flip this back around. When you walk inside of a fifth wheel, one, it gives you the wow factor, because you get into it and you're like, wow, look at this. There's so much room that's inside here. I mean, you got a table and chairs, you have recliners, you have a couch, you have fireplaces, bigger TVs. These all my Pinnacles that we're in, these all have solid stone countertops, residential appliances, and everything of that sort. So that is one huge thing that they have on fifth wheels, is the features are going to be a lot nicer. The cabinetry is going to be nicer. You get into my Eagle fifth wheels, they're going to be more along the lines of cabinetry like you'll see inside of our J Flights and our Eagle travel trailers. So not a lot of difference between travel trailer fifth wheel there. But once you start stepping up and you start getting into some higher end stuff like my North Points, my Pinnacles, you're going to see the elegance inside of it, and you're like, wow, those things are nice. On this particular model, the cabinets aren't as high because we do put a lot of the storage and stuff inside of the slide outs. But then standing behind me, I got to reach way up here to reach this cabinet, and it's like a lot of people will be like, well, Adam, what am I going to put in there? And I'm like, sure. Stuff we don't use that often, just because the sheer height of our fifth wheels are so much bigger. So again, with that, we have to pay attention to overpasses, where we're going, gas stations and stuff like that. So I'll always recommend that, hey, go to Flying J's, Loves, T&A's, all your big truck stops for your, when you're traveling down the road, because, tractor trailers can go in it, I can go in it. So, we are all very, very mindful of the things that, are just like tractor trailers going on the road. All right, so with the fifth wheels, we walk up 4 steps, 3 steps, depending on the size of the camper, and then your living room and all that good stuff, it's all on your main level. But then when you start going into our bedrooms, you're gonna have the 3 steps up into the bedroom to go to either the bathroom or the bedroom. But then when you get into your bedroom, this particular floor plan has the couch with the windshield, but we have so much more space inside this bedroom. I mean, this particular floor plan has a dresser with a fireplace and a TV above it with a couch and the windshield. So you will get that higher profile on your fifth wheels to give you more space in the bedroom, and also in the, the living room and the kitchen area, because, like I said, the framing on these guys is so much bigger, and we can go through and you know, put a lot more weight inside these. You know, your standard travel trailers can go anywhere from weighing from about 2,500 pounds ish, give or take, all the way up to almost 10,000 pounds. Where my fifth wheels, you know, we're, you know, 7,500 to 8,000, all the way up to, you know, my seismics, they're weighing almost 16,000 pounds. So there's a lot of weight difference between the two of them, and you know, it's a big difference. And I wouldn't, like I said, we wanted to get into this stuff because this is a lot of stuff that people, you know, they're on the fence, like, do I go fifth wheel or do I stay travel trailer? You know, we want to be here to, you know, be your guys' information, you know, givers, because, you know, we're technically the professionals here, and you know, we've been all doing this for a really long time, and we want to be able to help you guys out, make the best decision that's right for you and your family. But also, we want to make sure that, you know, you're gonna be going down the road correctly, safely with the vehicle that you have at hand. But then from there, going and towing, that's going to be a big difference too between your travel trailers and fifth wheels. We'll go back outside and I'll go over a little bit of that with you guys. So on your fifth wheel, one thing with a fifth wheel is hooking up is going to be a lot easier. You're going to get people that are going to say travel trailer is easier, you know, fifth wheel is easier. Myself personally, I believe a fifth wheel is going to be a lot easier, because when you look at this kingpin, you're going to take your truck, you're going to have your hitch, you lower your tailgate, you got your hitch, you hook right onto that. There's a lever that locks it into place. Boom, we're finished. We raise our jacks, do our tug test, and we're finished. We're hooked up, we're ready to go down the road. Now in a travel trailer, I'll walk over here to this guy. When you got these guys, you're going to have your head assembly, you're going to have your weight distribution bars, you're going to have your sway control. So therefore, you know, hooking up, it's going to take us a little bit longer, you know, but again, cost effective. You know, it's a lot less expensive for us to tow a travel trailer than it is a fifth wheel. Travel trailers, you know, they tend to sway a little bit more just because I'm attached to the ball that's on the bed of the truck that's right there. Where on a fifth wheel, you know, all of my weight for my pin is actually over the rear axle of my truck. So when you get into that, you know, you look at it as, look at all your tractor trailers out there. You know, your semis, your 18 wheelers are going on the road towing 50, 60, 70,000 pounds of weight. All that pin weight that's in that trailer is actually right over the rear axles of that truck. So you don't get as much wind drag on a fifth wheel. It isn't going to sway. So those are some of your pros and cons that we're going to have. If there's anything that you guys, you know, would like to see more of on a pro and con, if you have questions, feel free to shoot them down in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like, subscribe button on our page. But also, come see us and see why we say go one better, go Apache Village. Until next time, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.